All right. I'd like to welcome all who've come and all that are online. We had quite a few people register for this online, so I'm wondering if that's where a lot of them are. We had about 190 people or so, I'm told, register online. I don't know how many are on there now. It keeps growing every time I check. But we're going to get moving on this. I'd like to welcome everybody to this update on where we're at with the Maricopa County Zoning Code update. I'm appreciative of those who are involved, those who are interested. This is a very interesting project, a very dynamic project that's going to affect a lot of into the future. It's a lot like writing up a new language from an old language, but it's one that we hope that everybody's going to be able to understand. So what we're going to do today, well, first let me introduce the team. So we've got quite a bit of talent in this in the room as far as who we've got helping us. We've got a lot of senior staff. A lot of the planning division staff did a lot of hard work over the last several weeks since we last met in June to get this moving. We brought Michael Baker International on to help us put the final touches on this, make it look clean, professional, make sure we're all legal and everything's good. So with all of this talent involved in this, we're going to have a very high quality zoning ordinance at the end. The agenda for today, I want to give a little background on what we're doing, why we're updating the zoning ordinance, what the purpose is and our goals. Then we're going to go over the enhancements of what we've done to the zoning ordinance, what our proposals are going to be, and then update you on the schedule, and then tell you how you can be involved. We're going to finalize that draft in the next couple of weeks, and so the ability to look at what we've drafted and the ability to make comments, we're going to give specific instructions on how you can get online and how you can participate. I'm going to give you a little bit of a taste of some of the things that you're going to see in there as we go through this presentation. Whoops. Oh, let me back up. So the purpose, our current zoning ordinance is about 50 years old. It was first updated in 1969. We've kicked the tires on it. We've changed the tires on it. We've lost some tires on it over the years, but it's very due. That's not good English, but it is due for an overhaul and an update. And right now, as you read it, it's very text heavy. It's very cumbersome to use. Sometimes it's very hard to figure out what's allowed in what zoning ordinance. How do you apply different development standards? Where is it located? What chapter it's in? So we're trying to address all of these issues. There's also been, since 1969, a lot of emerging technologies that aren't even addressed in the zoning ordinance. Some of them have even changed names. Zoning ordinance now talks about automobile laundries. Automobile laundries are car washes. So that one always cracks me up when I get to it. But some of the other emerging technologies back in 1969, we didn't have things such as battery energy storage systems, the photovoltaic systems for the solar, especially the utility grade solar. We see a lot of that in the county. And data centers are something that's big in the valley right now as well. So we're getting emerging technologies in there. The overall goal was to create a code that was usable, readable, user-friendly, very clear to understand, very easy to navigate, and that will address some of the rising issues that are coming up. Particularly, one of the things we were focusing on as we were doing our research was the critical housing needs and availability of housing. Those are things that we really strive to focus on as we went through this modernization effort. So the process that we went through, we wanted to incorporate new graphics. Like I said, our zoning ordinance is very text heavy. Illustrations go a long way towards describing something. We are introducing a land use table. Currently, there's not an easy table. As you look at some of the more modern zoning ordinances, there's land use tables that are very clear by land use type, what types of land uses there should be. And we needed to condense some of those. We're removing outdated terms and consolidating a lot of chapters where appropriate. Oh, and always trying to align with current statute. So the process that we followed so far and what we've done since June, for the last year or so internally, we've gone through as a staff and we've done an internal audit on our zoning ordinance. We've done an audit that we went through and applied a lot of red lines. We've applied so many red lines. A lot of us are seeing red lines in our sleep. Red's not my new favorite color. But as we apply these red lines, we went through and we saw what we thought, but then we also developed a questionnaire that's still available online. A questionnaire, I think I got a slide, I'll bring it up too. It'll be, oh, it's on this slide. Be available to September 12th. We're still looking for input on things that people want to see within the zoning ordinance. So far, we've received almost 300 responses on that, which is very good for a questionnaire of this type. I just today, I went back through on those responses and how did they align with the things that we're proposing so far. And we're in very good alignment on what we're seeing. I don't know why that's advancing. Hang on. Who let me drive? Okay. Somebody over there trying to help me? Okay. It's very sensitive. We have consolidated through our review, we've consolidated 17 chapters into 14 chapters. With that new land use matrix, we actually consolidated about 4 chapters worth of material down into one land use table. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a little bit. We're streamlining our development standards, and we're still in the process of adding those graphics that go with those development standards. As we're developing the graphics, we need to make sure that we're finalizing the standards that go with those so that they line up and they match. So this is illustrating what you're seeing there are the pages and pages. If you were currently to look up what land uses are allowed in a certain zoning district, say you're looking for commercial zoning, what would be allowed in that zoning district, you would literally need to flip through almost 3 of these, depending on what your land use is. You might need to burrow through each of these, and it's all very text heavy, so you end up needing to read almost every page. There are certain land uses that are allowed in the rural and residential zones that are allowed in the industrial zones, but it refers to it in the industrial zoning chapter. So then you have to refer to the industrial zoning chapter, refers to the commercial zoning chapter, that then refers to the rural and residential zoning chapter. So trying to give a good indication of why it's cumbersome. So what we have done, and this was more painstaking than we thought, is we've taken all of that text and all of those land uses and condensed them onto one land use table. So when the draft is available, what you'll be able to see is this land use table. Anything that's in red is indicating either a modification, well, it's indicating a modification to the ordinance or something that is new to the ordinance itself. So as you see here, there's some strike through. What you see on those notes, let me go to the next one. Those notes, those strike through notes are saying that it's being condensed into another land use category. So we had under food service, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but food service, we had a lot of food services that were they were defined in the code, but they were listed separately. And so it's simplifying the code with saying, hey, an ice cream parlor and a coffee shop really fit in the same light retail category. So we were able to condense a lot of those down. We're able to show whether they're permitted, they're allowed by a special use permit, whether they're allowed by right, but they need a plan of development, which is a specific site plan review, or if you're able to obtain a temporary use permit. The very far column is something to take a look at, because what it then does is refer you to additional regulations further into the code or at the bottom of this table. It'll give you the additional regulations or the regulations that apply to that specific land use. So as we went through that, and this was what they were trying to tell me, we condensed 201 land uses that are currently listed today in the ordinance down to 137 land uses. So it was quite a significant reduction. The example we're showing here is that we created a category for commercial and entertainment that consolidated 6 of those uses. The largest one was the general retail services, consolidated 22 of those land uses. It's almost as if 50 years ago they thought of every use that was in the county at the time and put it in the zoning ordinance separately. So we were able to condense down a lot of text and a lot of pages. So it's a lot easier to navigate our zoning ordinance with what we're proposing. Here's another look at how that looks. On the left, you can see all the redlining that's done. On the right, you see what the finished product will look like, how it's cleaner because it's not red. But this is giving that example of what you're seeing. Each one of those land uses also has a correlating definition in Chapter 2 of the zoning ordinance. So we've gone painstakingly through every land use definition, every definition in the zoning ordinance. We've either updated those or added new ones as they're needed. Here's an example of the rural resident or the residential land use chart where it's showing where single family residential is allowed today, where it's showing where multifamily is allowed, or the ADUs currently, where they're currently allowed. Again, anything in red is something that's being introduced. What you'll see there is a reference to short-term rentals, both in the single family and the accessory dwelling units that are being proposed, and then the specific link to the article where you will see the regulations that regulate those. Another example of how graphics are going to tie into this and what the overall table would look like. This is an example of our development standards table. So the other thing is our development standards in our current code are also very text heavy. When you go in them, you have to read through the paragraphs and sections to understand what are the setbacks, what's the height that's allowed, what's the maximum lot coverage. In this instance, we've simplified those under each of the sections, and the industrial development standard section looks like this, with a corresponding land use chart that shows, this one's actually outlining what food production looks like throughout. What the food production is, this is illustrating that there were, let me read this real quick. Bakeries, bottling plants, and dairy products, we've all called those food production. So those were all separate land uses before, and they're all allowed by right only in the industrial 2 and 3 uses. And then that's the updated definition down there, as well as an example of what we're prepping for what you're going to see as far as illustrations on how these development standards apply to industrial development. This comes in very handy as we're meeting with customers or applicants or people or neighbors who have questions on how we describe how the code works. Currently, if we have a visual, I've drawn many visuals in my career when we don't have one available. When it's available inside the code, it makes it a lot easier to understand what we're trying to describe either through the text or through the tables. So we're going through and we're adding a lot of graphics, and so it will be very helpful. So as we've gone through this update and we've collected all this data, we've met with other stakeholders, we've met with a task force, we've gone through, we've collected data from the community, we've done questionnaires, people have come to us and offered comments through our website. We've taken all of this in, but one of the things that is really driving our timeline right now is the accessory dwelling unit legislation that was passed last year. Counties are now required to have regulations in their zoning ordinance by the end of this year. So we're under the gun to get this done, primarily being driven by this ADU bill. It is something that needs to be done, but the overall in this phase of what we're proposing is driven by this. State statute mandates that all counties will require at least one attached and one detached accessory dwelling unit on any property with a single family residential unit on it. Currently in our current code, we already allow one ADU per single family home. This will increase the ability for one attached and one detached. The legislation also requires a county, for properties of an acre or more, to allow the ability for a third ADU, a detached ADU, an additional detached ADU, if it meets affordability standards. And what that looks like, according to the code, is either a deed restriction or some type of agreement that would be enforced through recordation on that property to show that that is an affordable unit. So this is quite a significant change for a lot of counties. For Maricopa County, it's allowing additional ADUs on the property. Again, this is something that is required by state statute. So we're looking at how does that fold into what we currently do. We're still looking for input on this. We're finalizing some of our recommendations on what we think we could do as far as regulations and limits that we might be able to place on this. One of the things in the state statute is a detached ADU is allowed to encroach into a setback up to 5 feet from the property line. And so you're going to see that in the code. We're trying to make people aware that that encroachment is an allowance by state statute for that accessory dwelling unit. We currently do allow encroachments by accessory buildings and accessory dwelling units for the one. So any ideas or thoughts that people have on this, it's things that we're looking for input back. So if you go out on our website, or when we make this draft available, you can go in and see what the proposed recommendations that we will have out there once we get those fully vetted. And you can make direct comments to us on your thoughts. We have to have that approved by January 1st of next year, or the end of this year. Oh, I should have switched to this one because this illustrates everything I just said. So this is the graphic that went with what I just said. Again, this is something that is going to allow people to the intent behind this with the legislation was to increase available inventory of affordable units. This is going to help out with people who might have students who've left the house or come back, or aging parents, or they're just looking for another means of income for allowing a different ADU on their property. State statute also requires that we allow these to be leased or sold, not sold, leased separately from the main home. One of the other things that's driving, let me back up here. We did a study on the regulation, the legislation actually hit the municipalities a year before it hit the counties. So a lot of the municipalities have already adopted this. By statute, the minimum allowed in the municipalities is that the ADU or the accessory dwelling unit can't be more than 75% or 1,000 square feet of the primary home. 75% of the primary home or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less. Most of the municipalities have adopted that. In the counties, it allows the counties to consider some variations to that at a greater level. So that is something that is an option that the counties have that the municipalities don't. But for the most part, what you're going to see in the ordinance draft that you see is taking into consideration things that are already approved in most other municipalities around the valley. Other counties are also in the same process of updating their zoning ordinances for specifically ADUs. They may not be doing an overhaul as much as what the Maricopa County is. Did I have a short-term rental slide? All right, so one of the other things we're adding, I was going to add that, is we're adding regulations dealing with short-term rentals. And there are regulations that we're able to apply. Specifically, we needed to do that for two reasons. One, we need to add some regulations to our short-term rentals. And two, we need to set up some regulations on how they would apply to accessory dwelling units. What the statute says is if you have an accessory dwelling unit, the primary property owner has to live on the property if you're going to offer one as a short-term rental. So we need to make sure that we codified that. So when you get into the draft and you see what we've got going, you'll see the interplay between the accessory dwelling units and the short-term rentals. Where we're at right now in our schedule is we're on our second stakeholder meeting, August 28th. We've got that questionnaire opened up through the 12th. We're finalizing that draft. It's like the ink's barely wet. We're almost there. We're hoping to release that to the public within the next couple of weeks. When that is released, we will be sending out the email blast. We'll be sending out to everybody whose contact information we've got on this call. Our interested, what do we call that list? Our interested areas of interest list. Everybody who's received this will also have an email blast and a media release on it as well, that you have the opportunity to go out there to make comments on that, on the draft. Sorry, my brain's getting ahead of itself now. Again, I've mentioned this a few times. The questionnaire is still out there. We're still taking comments. Once we get this draft out there, you're going to see what we're proposing, but we're still able, we're trying to make sure that we've captured every thought that's out there. This isn't a staff-driven, it's staff-driven, but it's not staff-heavy. It's not developer-heavy. It's community-heavy. We're trying to hear from as many people who have a voice as possible, and then trying to get that voice interpreted into something that we can actually codify into the zoning ordinance. So we encourage anybody who hasn't taken the questionnaire, go out and take the questionnaire. But at that same website, you're going to be able to access Conveo. Is this where you need to come in? I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who's going to tell you exactly when we release this, when you get notification. He's going to go through exactly how you can access it, how you can utilize it, and what kind of a tool it is.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, for this process and commenting on the zoning code, it's a very layered document, very involved, right? So we want to make sure that the method that we collect feedback is more robust and provides maybe a little greater dynamic feedback so that, as Tom pointed out, we can really hear input and have some conversations around that. So what we'll be using is Conveo. Might be new to some. It's a web-based application. That this is a picture of the interface. We have a little video after this that I'll walk you through so you can kind of get the lay of the land. But the gist is we'll have a link on the project website. You click on that link like any other review document, and it will take you to essentially this screen. There we go. Whoops, little delay there. Okay, so this is a representation of what you'll see when you're leaving a comment. So the great thing about Conveo is that it allows you to comment on the document as if you've commented on a PDF before. This is what Conveo does. It basically allows you to comment on it in a group setting. So you'll be able to not only provide your comments, but you'll also be able to see other individuals who have left a comment. And so as you scroll through the document, you see any area within the document, you just click on it, and the screen on the left, comments will pop up. You'll share your name and email address. The email address and name are only there for follow-up references. But then, of course, you share your comment. We then ask for you to classify your comment, and I'll show you what that means in just a bit. And you submit the comment, and then it will go onto the document and allow others to see that comment. Once that comment is posted, you can see the next pop-up here is how you can actually start to review and have dialogue with other comments. So you might see this example says this setback should be larger, and people can upvote that. Or you can even say, hey, I'm going to follow up. I agree with you, and share a comment. So it really starts to create that back and forth dialogue that you're able to not only just input your feedback, but see what your friends and neighbors are sharing and maybe spark other thoughts, or start to have a conversation back and forth and build greater ideas. So it really starts to create a community online that hopefully will make this document, of course, more robust in terms of its edits. So here's a little video that walks you through what you're going to see. So you land on this landing page. This is an example document, of course, and there we go. Yes, thank you. So once you land on this page, after clicking a link, you'll see the example document. You'll come over to the example document, you'll click on that, or what would be the zoning code, and this is the screen you see. So please comment on the zoning ordinance. You can go here and expand the screen if you'd like to see it in larger font. You can search pages if you want to come back to the document. You can download the document. You can also search the document if you have a specific phrase that you're looking for. So it creates a lot of user-friendly navigation tools, but then we also, of course, have other components. If you have a follow-up and you want to contact the team, it's right there. And then, of course, we'll have instructions to guide people along the way if they get a little lost. But the best part about this particular tool is what's outlined in green there. And that is click anywhere in the document to add your comment, as I mentioned before. So really about the zoning code, one of the challenges when we collect feedback is to track where is the comment related to the part in the document. So here we're clicking on, oh, here's a title. And so you can type in your name, your email address, and then, of course, your email address will not be shared with the public. But then you type in your comment here, whatever it may be. And then we ask you to classify your comments so that those can be organized, whether it be a statement, a question, or maybe you noticed a typo. And then, again, you post that comment. And the pin, if you will locate on the screen. And so if you have another section of the document, as you see, then you just click right at that location. So you're just hovering through the document and you put the comment where you want it to be on the page, and it stays there and allows others, like you see number 2 there, to see that there's a comment there. I want to know what they're saying. We click on that comment, and there the comment dialog box pops up. And again, you can upvote it to say, I like that idea. Or you say, you know what, I want to build on that. And you can actually click reply, and you can see add a statement, and then people can respond to that. So it really creates hopefully a more robust and engaging environment for you to go through the document. Of course, it allows you to take it down in chunks. This is a big document, so you can come back to it. And the other part that I think is user friendly is that we can get up to the top right-hand corner where you see the 2 comment boxes. You can click there, and this, we only have a couple comments in there, but that will show you all the comments in the whole document. So you can start navigating and organizing those comments to see, what's most replied or supported. So there's a lot of cool little bells and whistles in this tool that will make hopefully the review process much more enjoyable. And then of course on the back end, much more informative, so that we can all make educated decisions about the best edits that will drive this forward. So that is the Conveo tool. As Tom mentioned, once the document is ready, this will be the platform that we utilize. And then of course, as we put it up for use, if we get feedback, we'll always make sure to make adjustments if there's something that the public notices would be value added. But those are the features, and I think I'll turn it back over to Tom to close it out.
All right, thank you, Matt. Let's see how far we get. All right, so we're at that part. So zoning excites me. I like talking about zoning. I like the job that I've got. I like to keep my job, but I like the job. But I also like talking to people about zoning. So this is that part where the interaction between the community and us plays a great role. So we're opening it up now for any questions. If you're online and you've got questions, you just want to type in the chat. I've got a couple of staff members who are answering online. If you want to ask a question online, we're able to open up that mic and you can ask that question and we can answer it that way. You just need to raise your hand online and we can recognize you there. And if you're in the audience and you want to have a question or a statement, you can also raise your hand and Ron will bring the mic around to you. So are there any questions? Okay, so somebody online asked where the link for the document was, and Rachel's going to be putting that into the chat for those online. The link will be on the website. The Conveo link will be placed on the website when the draft is available. And the website is on the bottom of on the screen right now. But if you go out there right now, the draft is not loaded up. That'll be in a couple of weeks.
Hi, Face Outers with BFSO. If you are voting or up liking, do you have to show your identity in doing that?
So my understanding is that when you log in, let me back up. Matt will correct me if I'm wrong. He told me about it. We'll see how well I listened. So when you input your comment, it's going to ask your name and your email. So you can put those in there. So Matt, is there anything else you want to add about that?
Yes, the name and email address is placed there so that if anybody wanted to, if they were to provide multiple comments, the name would allow them to track their comments. And then of course we can follow up with that. But there is no validation, right, of the name or the email address. It's up to the user if they would like to be known and to have the ability for us to follow up with them.
Right. So when somebody likes it, they have to sign in. If they're not making a comment and they just want to vote, hey, this is an important thing, it will be tracked and you'll be able to see that there's not duplicate votes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, it would come up as anonymous 1, anonymous 2, 3. So yes, if someone wanted to just make comments, they can go in and do that, but then they would have to be aware that they're not going to be able to kind of come back and provide more input. But then conversely, if you want to share your information, you might be able to get more feedback that way.
So the answer is you could reply and make a comment anonymously.
Yes.
You can also email us directly if you want to at our planning staff, and we can provide that also, so it wouldn't come through this program.
So for those who are online, if you didn't hear Darcy, you can also email us direct with any questions you've got. There's a direct email contact that you can find, or if you can find any of our direct emails through any other means, by all means, contact a member of our staff. We will get in contact with you. This is a very important project to us. All right, if that's it, if there's no other questions, even if you think of them after you hang up, again, give us a call, shoot us an email, and we will get back in touch with you. Thank you. For those who are still online, we're going to stay online keep the chat open. I'm sorry, we're not shutting that down. So if you're still online and have questions, we'll keep that chat open for quite a while.
Thank you.